Welcome. I'm Shannon with Pick and Boost Vintage down in Fort Myers, Florida. And I am here today to paint something around the house. Originally, I was going to do something different than this. I was on 2 weeks ago and I was the one who did the bright orange buffet, which I absolutely love. But besides that, I was going to be out front and I was going to be doing my king size bed. Unfortunately, today, of course, is raining and overcast. So I had to go to Plan B, so I have this dresser here. When I get started on it, I'm going to zoom in so you can see it better. Really quick, I just want to tell you what I did to get to this far. This is totally prepped and ready to go. First of all, of course, I used the White Lightning to clean and get all the grease and residue off, because you definitely want to start with a clean surface, otherwise your paint may not adhere or might not stay on. Then, after I cleaned and let it dry, I added a layer of the Antebellum blue, which is a gorgeous color. Let me see if I can show this. There we go. Beautiful color. And then I did some highlights here with the Haint blue. Now, I just did a little bit of blending here, and obviously, no, it's not perfect blending, but with the technique and what I'm going to do today, you won't be able to tell. I really don't know what you call it, except for I'm going to call it layered love. So today I'm doing layers and layers and layers. So real quick, before we get started, this is what I'm going to use next. The Sea Spray. The Sea Spray, you mix it with paint, equal portions, stir it up, and it should be consistency of, like, let's say brownie mix. And everybody knows what brownie mix looks like, right? So make sure when you're mixing your Sea Spray, it's even and it looks like the consistency of brownie mix. Okay, so put that back. And so I'm gonna zoom in, so you probably won't see me, which is fine. You're not here to see me, you're here to see this. And even though I've done this look before, I never know how it's going to come out, because every time it's like a new blank slate. It's like to me, I call it a work of art, whatever. So I'm going to zoom in and we're going to play. First thing we're going to do is I mixed up already the Sea Spray with Antebellum. So I'm going to put this on here, and then I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see better. I know that's always a problem, so let me push this in so you can see, and then angle the camera down. Oh, that's pretty good. Let me move it down just a scotch. There we go. Okay, so if you're just joining us, let us know where you're viewing from. Like I said, I'm down in sunny Southwest Florida, except for today is not sunny. So what I'm doing is I'm putting some of the Sea Spray on, just one of the Dixie Belle mud speckle brushes, or scrapers. And I'm just going to start I'm layering. This is just one layer. I want to put it on. I don't necessarily want any lines, but I want it to be where you can see that there's texture. And I'm going to sporadically put this on my piece here. Nothing shows an authentic look than layers and layers and layers. You want to make sure you kind of go both ways, because you don't want to see the lines of your mud brush, or whatever this, the putty knife. So I don't know if what you noticed when I first came on, underneath this beautiful dresser is my arsenal of supplies. I think I have almost every brush that I own, only because when I work, I use a lot of brushes. Okay, so the goal here is just to get a lot of texture. I want layers, I want it to look crusty, especially when it dries. I don't necessarily want it to be where it's perfect, where I see what tool I used. So I want to go back and make sure I don't have any heavy lines. Okay, and I'm going to go to the other side. I'm hoping that this will be semi-dry so I can play. I've already prepared one side of this piece just in case it's not to my liking of dryness. And I'm going to go back over it because I want to make sure that I don't, when you look at it from the side, I can see the width of this in my lines, and I don't want to see that, so I want to drag over it so you don't see that. Can put it thin here, and obviously it doesn't have to balance. It could be different for sure. And a technique like this is really good because this piece has a big chunk taken out of the veneer here and another one up here. So it just kind of makes it look a little bit more, it hides it and makes it look just a little bit more authentic. Okay, I need to slow down, and I tend to go fast, so I'm going to go a little slower. And this is just simply another layer. What do you think so far? Go down here. Again, if you're just tuning in, I have mixed up a layer of Antebellum blue with sea spray. And if you don't know what sea spray is, it's a texture additive that you add to your paint. So it looks like, it has like little bumps. I know when you guys are out shopping and looking at furniture, you've seen some of the finishes of a real authentic old like farmhouse piece, and it has those bumps on it. Okay, I need to go back here because you can tell the size and the width of my tools, and I don't want to be able to see that. So I'm going to go back here and play a little, add some more. Oops, remove my paint. Can you see that? I'm going to angle the camera down just a little bit more. There we go. There we go. Drag it back. And maybe a little bit up here. If you haven't tried the sea spray yet, it is a great tool to add to your painting because it just gives it an authentic finish, especially with the little lumps. Okay, so that is on. I put that on with, again, Antebellum and some sea spray. I want to add a little here. Now I'm not done with the sea spray. The fun is still happening. Now I have mixed up some of the Haint blue. And again, it looks like brownie mix. If you have any questions on any of this, feel free to ask them. And if they're not answered by Dixie Belle, who's monitoring this, I'll be happy to go back in afterwards and answer them. So now, with the Haint blue, I'm going to take my premium chip brush and I'm going to add another layer of sea spray. And I'm going to put it over the Antebellum sea spray that I just put. I'm going to mix them, and it's okay that the colors are going to mix and it's still wet because this is blended. It'll just be, I'm going to start over here though, it'll just blend. And I'm going to go an up and down motion like a pounce. Oops, I got a little bit too much there. What I don't want to do is I don't want to get rid of the Antebellum sea spray underneath but I want to mix them. And if I feel like maybe I added a little bit too much of the Haint blue, I can go back and use my Antebellum for sure. And when you're layering, you always will tend, or at least I tend to go back and forth between the colors. Definitely want to make sure that when I put this on, I have a couple of raised areas. I want to have the layers come through here. I want you to be able to see the different layers of this sea spray. And this is not going to be with the finished look, so there's going to be more. So just bear with me as I do each drawer. I had a little bit too much when I pounced here, so I just took it and moved it down here. Go back up here. I want to say thank you to a fellow Dixie Belle retailer, Stacy from New Creations by Stacy. She helped me record a video Saturday on grunge, and I appreciate her taking the time to meet with me. That was very nice. So if you, I know she's been on this page before, but if you haven't liked her page, give her a shout out on her page and give her a like. So if you notice what's happening as I'm pouncing this on, it's bringing the little peaks up a little bit, but it's also mixing the paint. Now I don't like the way that this looks right here, but I'm going to come back on that and I'm going to make some adjustments. But for right now, I just want to layer down the sea spray and the Haint blue paint. Like I said, I have a whole arsenal of brushes down here. So there we go. This one still has a little bit of the blue on it. There we go. And if you want to see the final project when I'm all done, I always, on my Facebook page, Pick and Booze Vintage, I always go back and I stage and I put the finished product on there. Some more blue on there. And this is simply just making it where the white is not so stark, but still has the layers. Like I said, I didn't know what to call it, so I'm just calling it Layered Love. And let's see. Whenever I'm doing a project like this, I always have an image in my mind and it never turned out how I expected, but that's okay. I'm going to use my misting brush and I'm just going to drag it just a little bit so it's not so dotted, I guess you could say. And I'm using a new dry brush. Just blending it just a little bit. Because see these little you can see the lines. I don't like that. So I'm going to use some more white. Go up a little. And when I'm going back and forth, it is pushing around the sea spray just a bit, but it is beautiful. It's pretty. I'm not sure how the camera captures it, but okay, get a little bit in here. Taking my dry brush again, I'm just gonna lightly, I need to stand back and take a peek. Now, I'm not going for a perfect blended look by any means. What I want is I want layers and layers and just where it looks like grungy. Okay, come back over here because I need to fix this area just a little bit. I'm gonna get some more sea spray. Now I'm gonna use my oval medium, which I love. And I'm going to see what this does. It gets rid of the marks and blends it more because it's also a wider surface and it covers more. Oops, I got a little bit of. Ah, it's looking good. Okay, so this is the look that I'm going for down here. I'm going to adjust that in just a bit, but since I'm over here, I'm going to go ahead and do this side. So I'm going to take my sea spray. I'm going to mix it with the Antebellum blue. If you like the layered look, this is it's a fun technique. Going back over it with just a little bit, the Antebellum. Get a good workout too. Okay, now I'm going to take where's my dry brush? Take my dry brush and I'm just going to do a little bit of dragging, not much. Just to soften the edges just a tad. And I can always use my mister bottle if I need to, but right now I don't think I need to. And go back over it with my oval medium. Maybe just to smooth out. Very good. Okay, so I'm gonna come back over here because you can see the marks here, and I don't like it. I like it more where it's blended and you can't really see. So I'm taking my Antebellum blue brush and I'm going over it. Then I'm going to, I need to soften that up. I'm gonna take my dry brush, make sure I get all the excess paint off from this area. I'm just going to lightly drag across, kind of blend it just a tad, soften up the marks. And I still have a little bit of, where you could see the white really stark, so I'm going to use just a tad. One spray of my mister, very little. There we go, and this will soften it up. There we go. Sweet. Okay, so I'm going to stand back, get a better look at it, and see where I need to fix. Okay, so when I stood back, I feel like this is not gelling right here. So I'm going to take my dry and I'm just going to maybe blend just a little bit. Actually, I need to add, I'm going to add a little bit of the Haint blue. There we go. So how many of you like to do the layered look? Sometimes I could go back and do layer after layer and keep going, and it just turns out beautiful. And then sometimes you only need just a little. Okay, so I'm gonna let that be for right now because the next step, you won't see some of this. So, anybody have a guess what my next step is? Let me straighten this out. Anybody have a guess? Guess? Okay, well, I could use wax, I could use glaze, but for this, I'm going to use the Voodoo. I like this because it just goes on well, and it just and it dries pretty fast, and for me it's easier to manipulate than the wax. So let's see, I'll start over here. What I'm using, I just poured some in a Tupperware container, and then I have my oval small brush. So I'm just going to dip it in very lightly. I don't want that much. So I'm going to get the excess off. I'm going to grab a paper towel because you definitely want to make sure you offset it. And then we're going to go in and just add some depth, more layers. Now I'm using the Voodoo Tobacco Rd. It's also water-based. But look how pretty that is. I don't know if with the lighting. I'm going to keep going, and you can just watch and tell me what you think. For the first layer, I'm going to go and I'm going to just do a light coat, and then I'm going to go back and then probably add a little bit darker for depth. But again, I'm pouncing it. I'm not brushing it, I'm pouncing it. And I'm using my oval small. And again, this is, if you're just tuning in, this is with the Voodoo Gel Stain, the Tobacco Rd. Now, if you're like me and you use a million brushes during a project, sometimes your bristles or the paint can get dried on. So if you haven't used or tried yet a scrubby soap, I highly, highly recommend. Scrubby soap you can find at your local Dixie Belle retailer. If you're going to invest in a brush and you want to take care of it, you definitely, definitely need scrubby soap. Okay, so there we go. Ta-da! What do you think? Yeah, so I call this the layered love or grunge. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this side since I'm down here, then I'll go over there and do that side. But this is just purely very little bit of the Voodoo, and I'm pouncing it on. No rhyme or reason, just what I think looks good. Remember, I'm not brushing it, I'm pouncing it. Oops. Can you hear that? My dogs are not happy. Okay. Ta-da! Oh, I just love this. So again, if you're just tuning in, I used Antebellum blue, a little bit Haint blue, and then I used some sea spray with those colors, and now I'm going back and adding a little bit, very little bit of the Voodoo Tobacco Rd. This is what gives it some more depth. And I'm pouncing, I am not brushing. Pounce is simply up and down. I'm gonna get really light in here just so it has a little bit of depth. I'm going back over some of it because I want to make sure that it's smoothing in. It doesn't have some harsh lines. Like, I don't want you to be able to tell that I put it on with a brush. Okay, so how's that look so far? Can you see the difference of this side and that side with the Voodoo? All right, let me go to the other side and do that one. And that's why when I said earlier, you don't really need to make sure we worry if you have a little bit of an error that you don't like, because when you put this back over it, it kind of masks it, hides it, whatever you want to call it. I put a little bit much on it, so I'm going crazy. I'm just trying to spread it out a little bit because I can tell it's already a little bit darker on the other side, and that's okay. But let me get some of this off. Like I said, you really get a good workout. Now, here it was a little bit heavier than over there, but there's no worries because the Voodoo, this stuff is water-based. So I can go back and look, watch. I can just put a little bit of this over it. I didn't put any more on, I'm just using my wet brush. And then go back with the Tobacco Rd. When I'm all done with this, I'll step back and look at it. It's hard sometimes when you're working on a piece and you're right up close to it, you can't really see. I can tell from here though that this has a brighter section than this, and that's okay. You don't want it to be all the same. And what I can do is I can always add a little bit of that to dull it down just a little bit. Okay. Now down here, I'll be a little bit more careful with how much Voodoo I put on it. Okay, so I got some. We're gonna take it off. Make sure with my paper towel, and I'll go back over here. You don't always have to keep it in the edges. You want it to come up just a little bit, because when a piece gets aged and old, it doesn't just segregate to the corners. Okay, so I want to grab this one, pounce it in a little bit more. Whew. My arm is getting tired. So those of you that are watching and maybe like this style of painting or you want to see more projects by me, follow my Facebook page. Also, I have a YouTube channel on some of my videos that I've done. Again, my name is Pickin' Boots Vintage. Okay, so this is really bright here. I need to tone that down. I'm just going to swirl this in just a little, get rid of some of those edges. And I'm not going to put more Voodoo on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my brush, make sure I get it all off, and just kind of lightly swirl on here, just so I get just a faint ta-da. Okay, so when I step back, when I'm off the camera, I'm going to see if I'm going to take the Haint Blue and go back in and do these lines, or if I'm going to leave it like this. From this angle, looking at it, I'm going to probably do that. So let's just go ahead and do that now. Let's see what it looks like. Sometimes, like I was talking about earlier, you have a plan for something and then things change. There we go. Yeah, I think I like that better, so let me go over here. And it doesn't have to be a perfect line, maybe just to soften up that brown a little bit. The Voodoo. There we go. Okay, what do you think? This is my layered love look. Let me pull this back a little bit. Okay, so in the camera, like when I pull it further away, I can see that this is still a little bit bright. So I'm going to just put a little bit more like this. Now something else that you can do, and I debated about doing it, is I could take a little bit of a black and do the same thing, stipple it in just a couple areas, just give it more dimension. So why not? Let's do it. I'm gonna come back up. I still have plenty of brushes that are here, clean, ready to go. And now when you do this, you need very little. So dip my brush in, get it off the edge. Make sure I get most of that paint off, very, very little, and then I'm going to do, and now I'm going to just taper a little bit of that. Can you see that? Let me come a little bit closer. So this is just adding a little bit more to it. It's very, very subtle, so I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, but up close here, I can definitely see it, and what a difference. Make sure you get all the excess off. Oop, that's a little heavy there, that's all right. What do you think? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and log off, but I'm going to continue with the black around and shade a little bit more for some more layered love. If you want to see the finished piece, make sure you go ahead to Pick and Boots Vintage and give me a like, and they'll probably be on by tomorrow. All right. I want to say thank you for joining me in my home and following Dixie Belle with their promotion of Around the House. You guys have a great day. All right, see you soon.